This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined here with big Frankincense Smith. Frank, how are you, mate?
You've had a few beers, haven't you, Parsons? I've been watching you. You've been in the bar watching the football. You've had about 8 beers. And now you're ready to go, aren't you? Do some work.
You know what it is, just keep it flowing, keep them going. England 0-0, we're not liking it, Frank's freezing. Look, how's things, mate?
Unbelievable, mate.
Am I not allowed to be nice to you, no?
Yeah? You look like you're ready for a tear-up.
No, I'm in the Pink Stone Island, like Eddie said, feminine but violent.
Feminine but violent. Interesting. I like the sound of that. Look, you've got a bit of Palm Angels over there. Look, it's a stylish corner, isn't it?
Stylish corner, unlike yourself, Frank.
I'm not stylish at all. Oh, look, now we got a Greenstone Island coming in as well. Aqua. Interesting. Looks green to me.
Enough.
I don't know where this is going, to be honest.
Going either. Look, you have been in opposition territory this week, Ryder Parker. Look, a lot of talk this week about John Ryder. If he wins, he gets the Canelo fight. He certainly goes into this fight as the favourite, but we know just how good Zach Parker is, as you're shivering. How does this fight go?
Look, I think the key here is going to be John Ryder's experience. I think people forget how long he's been around and the fights he's had, and people talk about going to boxing on an away card. He's done it before. He's been in those big nights. I think the pressure fight for John Ryder was the Danny Jacobs fight, because that was sort of, that was his moment there. And if he would have lost that, it would have been hard to come back from. I think the pressure's more on Zach Parker here but we haven't seen. He's never really been tested. He's done everything he needs to do, but I think John Ryder's going to test him, and I think you're going to see a good win for John Ryder.
I know it's not your show, but have you had any idea of ticket sales for this event?
No, not a clue.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, right, I can't push you for a title out of that one then. Look, Dillian Whyte against Jermaine.
I'm not going to be, just because you've had a drink, I'm not going to give you lines just to give you a headline.
I've had a drink, but I'm just asking for the ticket sales on the event, mate.
I'm not going to get everyone, look at him mugging someone else. The thing is, you wanted me to say something negative so you could have a headline, and then I'd just get a load of sticks saying, look at Matchroom talking shit about people. So I'm not doing it. Not playing your games, Parsons. I'm not playing your games.
Right, White Franklin instead, then, Wembley. You've not been there, because Eddie's clearly said, fuck off, Frank, I've had enough of you for this week. Good fight. Franklin, we don't know too much about. He's got that win, the big win. But other than that, he's not boxed over 12 rounds before. A few people questioning him going into this fight. What do you make of it all?
Look, I think, Jermaine Franklin, 21-0, he's been in there. This is his moment. This changes his life. If he can go in there and beat Dillian Whyte, it puts him in in the key position in the heavyweight division for massive fights. And it's a moment he's waited for a long time for. Dillian Whyte coming off the back of, obviously, a loss against Tyson Fury. He wanted a proper fight, and I think Jermaine Franklin's going to give him that. So, I'm looking forward to it.
So I asked you for the ticket sales on Ryder Parker. I'm now going to ask you if we can get a rough number of how many will be in the OVO tomorrow night for Jermaine Franklin against Dillian Whyte.
Expecting about 6,000 in there.
Interesting.
Do you want the exact number? I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'll take that tomorrow. I'm not actually here tomorrow, so I won't get that.
You're having a day off because of the train strikes.
No, we were assigned 5 things. Why look at you just digging me out all interview, Frank? You're cold, and all of a sudden the horrible side of you's come out. Look, you've been with the Warrens this week. Well, not with the Warrens, but in opposition territory at the Warren shows. I know that you've spoke before about working amicably with George Warren.
Sorry. You can cut that bit out.
Yeah, I will cut that bit out.
That bit out of me nearly dying on camera.
You've been sort of working amicably, and you've spoke about working with George Warren nicely. Have you had conversations this week about more sort of cross-platform shows and sort of continuing this better relationship, we can say, than it was before?
Not this week. I haven't actually seen George this week. I saw Francis briefly, but I don't think it's a case of having the conversation now. I think we've shown that we can work together. We've shown that there's no egos between us. Ultimately, if it makes sense for the fighters, whether that's their fighter boxing on our show or the other way round, then we're going to do it. The key is the key is delivering for our fighters, and the same for them as well. So, this was an opportunity that made sense, and hence why we made it.
Moving on, I've heard a few whispers that Matchroom will be clashing with Beterbiev-Yarde with Leigh Wood. Are you able to say anything on that front?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. What's the perfect date?
Well, the perfect...
The problem is this...
That would be the clashing with Beterbiev-Yarde part.
No, but I mean, what's the perfect date to go on? January 21st, you got Smith Eubank. I'm sure there's going to be shows fit. There's so many televised promoters now that it's going to be near impossible. I think there's going to be a lot of clashes, and we're only going to see more and more, unfortunately. That's just the truth. And it's not we pick a date on purpose. We do 35, 40 shows a year. We do nearly every week, so we have to schedule amongst our schedule of shows globally. So it's not we don't go out of our way to go, they're going January 28th, let's do that date. It doesn't work like that. But I do think we're going to see more just because of the number of shows that are going on.
Is it just the one show that you guys are having in January, or are you aiming for 2?
I think possibly 2, but currently that's the one we're looking at firstly.
Leigh Wood, are we looking at an opponent? I know the WBA, I spoke to Eddie, and they've received the letter that proving his sort of innocence, I suppose, because people doubted it on the injury that he had going into that Lara fight. They've now ordered the purse bids, but if you're looking at a January date for him, I suppose it won't be that Santa Cruz fight. Who are we looking at? Would it maybe be the Mauricio Lara rematch?
I don't think it'll be Lara. I think there's some other fights we're looking at now, and hopefully have some news soon on that. Again, I'm not going to be the man to give you names, Parsons. You just don't learn, do you? With me.
Like I'm not going to answer the questions anyway.
Yeah, true.
I'll ask the questions.
True. Answer the questions. Yeah.
Maybe I'll be in front of the camera one day, we never know. I suppose I've asked you a little bit if you're going 1 or 2 shows, but obviously the rest of the promotional outlets have come somewhat strong out in January. We've obviously got the pay-per-view for Eubank Junior Smith and then Beterbiev-Yarde. Is the goal really to get 2 out? I know that every year you're always pushing on to do more and more global shows, etc., and break records in terms of how many shows you've done the last year. Ideally, would you like the 2?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's about the international schedule, not just the UK. So when I say possibly 2 in there, that's not just the UK. But we're working through it with DAZN now. We're trying to map out a schedule sort of till mid-May, basically. So we've got everything up and running then.
You may as well call me Mr. Sources, because I'm hearing a whisper that Matchroom may be going to New York on February the 4th. Amanda Serrano in an undisputed clash with Erica Cruz, with Sky Nicholson on the undercard. Would I be right in those whispers I'm hearing?
Maybe. Sources say. You know more than me.
I'm trying to get Michael Benson to tweet something out here, mate. Can you give me a little bit?
Give your name on there, Charlie Parsons. That's something we're looking at currently, yeah, for sure.
Working with MVP, and obviously Eddie's got, Matchroom have got the lawsuit with Jake Paul, but I suppose you've specified and made it clear before that won't have any issues on making fights cross-promotion.
Ultimately, the MVP away from Jake Paul have got an obligation to do the best for their fighters, and I think we can deliver something sensible, so let's see.
Options for Anthony Joshua. I know Eddie's very keen on, if Dillian Whyte comes through this weekend, making that big stadium fight, but in terms of away from that, we've seen Hrgović now maybe with Usyk. Kalasaulin's hinted at Croatia, but seems hard that Usyk's team would agree to that as such. If the undisputed fight is allowed and Hrgović step aside, do you maybe look at doing Hrgović-Joshua for an IBF final eliminator?
I don't know if that's the fight. Hrgović, as we say, is fully focused on going for the IBF title. That's what he's worked towards. That's what he went down the final eliminator route. So I think we have to see how that things play out on that front. AJ obviously coming off the back of the 2 Usyk losses. I think we need to make sure it's the right fight for him. I think it's a big year for Anthony Joshua, though. I do see the Dillian Whyte fight happening. I see the Deontay Wilder fight possibly happening towards the end of the year. So let's see. There's lots of big opportunities for him.
On that note, when I asked John Fury about the fight between, Hrgović maybe stopping the undisputed fight, he didn't want to hear it. He called AJ a roid head, and he said that he's going to stick Eddie Hearn over his lap and spank him. What do you make of it all? Is it just John Fury being big John Fury?
I'm not saying anything about John Fury.
Are you scared of John Fury?
Scared. I'm sure he'd hammer me into the floor. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not like out of my way scared, but I'm
you
sure
are.
if he walked in here and wanted to have a fight with me, I'd be running that direction over there.
So you are out of your way scared.
Yeah, but like I don't think he'd cause trouble with me because I'm just a nice guy, and I'm just an all-round nice guy.
Frank, just finally on a more serious note, Conor Benn. We've been waiting for more clarity. I know that it's not even in Matchroom's hands anymore. It's a legal situation for him and his team going on. But what is the most that we can hear on that? And obviously, a lot of the public waiting to ask for a B sample. I know that 99.9% of B sample is the same as the A, but when it's as simple as getting, the urine sample and getting it out, when can we wait to receive this? Because I suppose you can sort of understand public frustrations that we haven't got it yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, like, it's all well and good saying public frustrations, but you got to imagine Conor Benn's 26-year-old guy who is now trying to defend his career, and he has to go through the right process of dealing with it from a legal perspective before he deals with it from a public perspective. I'm sure he would love to have come out and spoken about it more than he's been able to, but ultimately he's got to make the right decisions for the rest of his career, not just because the public want to hear an answer. I do agree, like, when he can talk about it, he will. But I think everyone has to, whether people understand it or not, everyone has to realise that the reason he's not speaking about it is because he is dealing with it in the way he has to deal with it first and foremost. Because otherwise it's pointless. If he doesn't deal with it that way and he just answers your questions and doesn't get anywhere, then, well, that's his career, maybe over.
Do Matchroom have the result of the B sample?
Not Matchroom. Again, it's a Conor Benn. It's Conor Benn's case that he's working through with his legal team, and as soon as there's more details to be shared, he'll be able to share them.
Roughly timestamp on when we'll hear more?
I mean, hopefully in the next few weeks, but I feel like a broken record saying the same thing because there's not really much I can say. I would love to have every answer with you because then it would be much easier than having this conversation every time. But all I'll say is as soon as he's in a position to talk about it, he will talk about it.
Frank, ultimately Smith, thank you very much for speaking to us on Boxing Social.
I remember my first beer, Parsons.